Well, I've been all over the place for what I actually want to review next after an attempt at those Mega Man Extreme games, also known as Rocketman X Cyber Mission and Rocketman X2 Soul Eraser. I'll probably get to those another time. Originally, I wanted to review the Iron Giant, but plans have changed as I need to see that again for better memory. Sorry, did I say change? I meant changed. I apologize. So for now, here are two loose adaptations of Aladdin and the Magic Lamp, if that's what it's called. There are two loose adaptations from Disney, a film in 1992 and another film in 2019. Despite that, Aladdin 2019 being considered a remake, let me say that again. Despite Aladdin 2019 being considered a remake, it's very different, and I'm sure that Couch Tomato will have a blast when he gets the chance to go over the two. Just like he did with Beauty and the Beast, except unlike Beauty and the Beast, which only added more from what I've gathered, both Aladdin films are much different and it shows. Well, let's start with the 1992 film. So, the 1992 animated film was directed by Ron Clements and John Musker, and it stars Scott Wanger, if I said that correctly, Robin Williams, Jonathan Freeman, Linda Larkin, Gilbert Gottfried, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that, and Frank Welker, who many of you may know in Transformers stuff. In fact, I'm going to call this film the Ron Musker version, combining both names of two directors together, and I'll call the 2019 film Ritchie's version, Guy Ritchie to be precise. Much like Cricket on the Hearth, maybe Sleeping Beauty, maybe even The Princess Bride, and later James and the Giant Peach, which I could be wrong about, this movie starts with a narrator telling the story, who in this case is a peddler, voiced by Robin Williams. Later, the film introduces Aladdin, who from what I've heard is more of a thief than in the story, so he's not just any loser. Also, unlike in the story, it seems that he has no parents instead of only losing his dad. However, in the DVD sequel, King of Thieves, he actually still has a dad, voiced by John Rhys Davies, and called Cassim, if I said that correctly, and is called Cassim. But that's another movie that I may not even watch or review. However, Aladdin does have a monkey companion named Abu, voiced by Frank Welker. Very cheeky one, too. This movie also introduces a song that has plenty of bounce in it, as Aladdin starts running away from guards and stealing a loaf of bread. So, after the conflict between Aladdin and his suitor, if I said that correctly, heading to the palace, what has the movie got so far? Well, the song during the chase scene, One Jump Ahead, is well written and it sounds great. The singing itself is really good too, and does not sound forced, well, and even if it does, it sounds really good, and I've got it, I don't know how much credit I can give the people that did the singing in this movie. The singing itself is also very fun to watch, and the animation is very good. It makes you wonder why those DVD sequels were unable to reach that level of animation, or even the amount of effort, because from what I've seen, I think they had really good ideas. They were just not very well executed in being successful movies, and that's a pretty big shame, or just a shame itself, because I think they have really good ideas, but I'm going to have to see the movie for myself. So, speaking of the palace, the movie also introduces the Sultan, who is trying to get Jasmine to marry a princess, and has an advisor that is the antagonist in the movie, Jafar, a sorcerer that plans to become Sultan and marry Jasmine. Plus, there could be a lot of ways to pronounce his name. Sorry. So, after a lot of trouble, Jasmine decides to run away from the palace. During that, Aladdin falls in love with her, and they run away from the apple seller after Jasmine offers a kid next to her an apple from the apple stand. Now, this is actually different than in the story. From what I've heard in the messed up origins video from John Solo, basically the way Aladdin falls in love in the actual story is that he basically sneaks into the Sultan's daughter's bath, and that's where love at first sight begins. Before I go back to that scene, I want to go back to Jafar. What seems to be part of his plan to become the Sultan is by getting a thief to bring in the lamp that's in the entrance to what is called the Cave of Wonders. And let me tell you, it sounds amazing, and it's probably one of Frank Welker's best voice performances. Maybe he should voice Shenron from Dragon Ball. It also looks really good, and despite being animated in 3D, it aged really well. After an attempt with a random humble thief, he finds out that Aladdin is the only person to enter the cave unless Abu counts, and decides to arrest him for it. By the way, the humble thief seems to be Gazim, I believe. So, Charlie Adler, you did something. Anyway, later he takes Aladdin to the cave while disguised as an old man. Now, this gets to another interesting scene. The treasures in the cave are absolutely insane. Now, before that, you already get to see a very long staircase, and it's a lot of stairs too. So you're already introduced to something that is pretty intense, especially for a beginning. Now, back to the treasures. Aladdin meets a very cool magic carpet. There are lots of jewelry, and it's very golden too. And of course, the lamp. Now, I know I'm not in Richie's film yet, but I will say that this is something that's fixed in that film. So the cave in the original film says to touch nothing but the lamp. That means it's the only thing that can be touched. And if you count the part where Aladdin would have to make steps on, like the floor or the ground or something like that, that's not necessarily a proper statement. It makes more sense in Richie's film, as Jafar says to take nothing but the lamp. I'm going to have to watch it again to hear the cave say that, if it said that too. But yeah. Of course, there comes another interesting scene, as Abu gets them in a stuck situation. One interesting part of the scene, especially the animation, is what's really cool is how that stuff melts. Is how some of the gold melts, and it looks really good. And in fact, the color is really good too. The red feel when Aladdin's trying to escape the lava, and it's also just really good looking too. And they did the lighting itself. It already looks just really good, and I have to give Disney credit for that. Of course, Jafar is certainly no nice guy, so he decides to leave Aladdin to melt. Unfortunately, Jafar fails. Congratulations, Abu. Here we meet the Genie, a really cool character in the movie and one of Robin Williams' best performances, if not the best. This also gets to one of Disney's coolest songs in the movie, Friend Like Me. And let me tell you, the singing itself is also really good. Part of it is talk singing, but even those parts rock. And let me tell you, like I said, absolutely, and it's definitely worth listening to outside of the film itself, because it's really well written. So it shows that the Genie is not ordinary at all, and he does a lot of things when the song is playing, and I mean a lot. This gives plenty of character development, and that's a key for a fictional roster that needs to be done really well. And Aladdin is a good example. This is a really good way to make round, lovable, and memorable characters, Nintendo. Now, this is where I will fast forward a little bit on this one. Despite what he can do, he does have 3 rules. He can't make anyone fall in love with another, he cannot kill anyone, and he cannot bring people back from the dead. After they get out of the cave, he helps Aladdin a lot, from making him a prince to saving him from being drowned by Jafar, and even he wishes for something. That is to be free and see the world. Of course, Aladdin's introduction when viewed as Prince Ali, also the name of another great song, is not so great for Jasmine as in the beginning, they obviously have a bit of a rough time, but thanks to his carpet, they get along. But eventually Jasmine realizes that he's Aladdin and he's actually Aladdin, and so does Jafar. So they both realize what Prince Ali really is. I should also mention that the scene with Aladdin and Jasmine at the carpet is another good song, A Whole New World. And this is one that's rather soft a little bit and pretty calm too, especially at the beginning. But yeah, it's also very well written. Okay, here's the crazy part. The Genie got Aladdin out of the cave by himself. And that's the same with getting him out of the ocean. And he has to tell Aladdin that he has to wish for it to happen. Yikes. Of course, during the ceremony, it's not easy for Aladdin to wish for the Genie to be free, and at that point he loses Abu, the carpet, and the Genie. And that's where it gets rough, because the movie shows that the Genie will grant wishes to anyone that rubs the lamp, because Jafar eventually gets it, and then later this is where it gets crazy. So, this is where it shows how evil Jafar can really be. He does a lot to conquer the palace and its country, Agrabah, and this becomes the second time we see Aladdin almost getting killed. So, after that, we get to see a battle between Aladdin and Jafar. And this battle is one where Aladdin almost loses the battle. Actually, there are plenty of fights in movies that make it look like that, but this one especially. And it seems that we'll get a tragedy, just like Shakespeare plays, like especially Romeo and Juliet or Macbeth, or maybe Macbeth, but definitely Hamlet. But nope. Aladdin still has his street rat mood, as he actually doesn't end his battle with his last hit. He tricks Jafar into wishing to becoming a genie, but Jafar and Iago get sucked into their own lamp because that's what a genie needs, and that's where the battle ends. And it's a very intense way to end the battle too. This is honestly where it should actually end, because eventually the Sultan lets Jasmine marry whoever he chooses, and after that, that's where they become together again. And honestly, like I said, that's where it should have honestly ended to begin with, because unless if that was not the case, like if Aladdin ran away, hoping to explore more of the continent or country he was in, well, those home video sequels did not have much of a point of existing, even though they have great ideas. I'm sorry, but even though they had great ideas, I don't know, maybe them not existing would have been for the best. So, how does the movie hold up to this day? Well, it actually holds up really well. The animation is solid, and especially better than those sequels. The songs are really good to listen to. The actors sing really well. The acting itself was top notch. The story is very interesting, and despite the movie being a very loose adaptation, and while I prefer seeing adaptations being as accurate as they can be, I do appreciate how it offers something new, and it's a movie that doesn't have to be super accurate to the source material to be fun, engaging, and very interesting to watch, and a movie that make you keep going to watch more of it and see what happens next. After all, that's a good reason to do something different, because it's a way to offer something new. Now on to Guy Ritchie's version. So I'm going to be a little quick on this one before I leave to my upcoming cruise trip, because that's why, and I don't have much time. So let me start by saying, much like Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, critics were not fond of the movie while audiences were. For me, the only thing I didn't really like was Jafar's voice. I would also mention the look of the genie, but that and Jafar's voice were something I could easily get through. Aside from that, I liked the remake. The cast was very interesting. The characters had bigger roles than they originally had, especially Jasmine. The music added neat drum parts while still being faithful. The singing was still good, even Will Smith. And I got more interest in watching the film than I did with Beauty and the Beast, especially if we're talking the remakes. For a bonus, I should also mention that either one has been compared to Raiders of the Lost Ark by Miss Mojo on YouTube. I will say that there is a slight difference. While Indy had to escape when he got what he collected, Aladdin had to make sure the lamp was the only thing to take, while everything else would lead to disaster or death. But yeah, I recommend checking out either film, and you are free to let me know what you thought in the comments section. I'm sure plenty of people will not think the same as me, but that's alright with me. If you felt different than I did, that's cool. Later, I hope to do the video game based on a 1992 film, or, scratch that, the video games, because there are plenty of different versions, when I get back from my trip, and that'll probably be a blast to do, and I'll see you next time. See you later, guys!